or getting a new kitchen put in, and my windows are all closed. So I'm afraid it's the keyboard or drills.
Could be right.
Is that it?
Wow.
That noise?
That's
Incredibly loud.
noisy.
Oh, shall I go and ask them?
I can mute it when you're not talking.
If only I'd baked them some biscuits, I could have asked them to shut up.
The killer wasps of.
I don't know. It kind of adds. It just
Annoyance?
adds a bit of atmosphere
Background?
as well, doesn't it?
Was it Paul McCartney says that people like it when you make mistakes live. They like to, know they're experiencing something real. So that's what I've always clung to.
True.
For Quorum, Paul, we do. Hi, Cole. Hello, Dad. I don't think you should separate me out, Dad. This is so Peter D. For anyone who
Tim
is-
et
is-
al.
yeah, there are. I like to give these guys equal prominence in my life.
If we are talking about silent keyboards, I use a Logitech KE295, which I'm typing on now,
Wow.
and it was the silent version that they did. We had it as hot hardware about 3 years ago, and it was for the princely sum of about 30 odd quid.
Can we get them to send one to Barry?
And I have to say they are quiet, and they're a normal keyboard. So
Impressive.
there you go. That's my plug.
Fascinating. Is that your plug? Okay. We can compare the noisiness of keyboards.
Oh, good grief!
Can
I've
we,
got a
please?
Logitech.
Do we clip this out for the social media?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, it's a nice little
that's a
one.
dinky one.
Yeah, I use that one with the Raspberry Pi.
Yeah,
And that is quiet. Look.
Oh yeah,
just hear something, but yeah.
This is why people tune in. This is fantastic.
Yeah,
at least we
not
found a reason.
Not the news stories and stuff.
Yes. How many decibels is your keyboard? Yeah, there's a cover line for the magazine.
At what distance? We should get Intech to.
Wow, now get ask John to set it up.
It's true. Yes, he's got all the lab equipment, hasn't he?
He's got all the gear. Right, I should probably just have a quick look at the stories I'm talking about today. I have looked at them before, but I've forgotten them.
That's it, He-Man. Yes, that's the fella. Can hardly recommend. That's why it won Hot Hardware of the Week 400 years ago.
Ooh. My technet is the sound of the springs. That's very poetic.
That Chaucer.
Yeah, I think so. Min technet the sound of en spring.
There you go.
What was that then, Darren? Was that Middle English kind
Yes.
of? Yeah.
Not entirely accurate. I did not study Chaucer very closely, even when I was supposed to, and I certainly haven't done since. But it's kind of recognisable as that, rather than High Frisian or Klingon.
What was High Phrygian? What's that?
It's a very thick
Dutch.
shake.
Yes.
Go on, Darren. What is High Phrygian?
Frisian from
Frisian.
Friesland, like Dutch.
Oh, okay.
It's probably a dialect, I would guess.
Good.
Yes, that's right. I'm making use of this. This is it. This is what it was all for.
I think you should share your PhD thesis. What do you call it? A thesis? What would you call
Yes,
it?
thesis.
I think you should share that.
It is available online.
It is.
Okay. Well,
I've
there
read
you
it.
If you want to
You've
read
read
it,
it?
you can.
go. Hang a second. Lee, you've read the thesis
I have.
from start to finish.
Yeah, I had a bit of a thing about Lewis
really?
Carroll.
About-
No, Darren
okay.
knows we've spoken about this.
Yeah, I was very flattered. I think Lee's in a very exclusive club there.
That's 3 of us now that have read it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure one of the examiners must have.
I used to live with a PhD student who used to mark BSEs, and he used to weigh them. That was as near as it got.
Now, I'm not going to say that my copyright has been compromised, but if you ask ChatGPT to summarize my thesis for you, it dives right in there. So you can probably just ask ChatGPT any questions about it.
Just remind us what the title was, in case people out there are keen to read it.
The title is Contextualizing Carol, which was like a catch-all title I came up with when I didn't know what the subject was actually going to be. Then the subtext is the subtitle is the actual title, which is The Contradiction of Science and Religion in the Life and Works of Lewis Carroll. Snappy, I'm sure you'll agree. 6 seconds, by the way.
But he was a mathematician, wasn't he?
He was a mathematician and logician. 1 p.m.
Hello and welcome to the PC Pro podcast. It is the 7th of August 2025. We are alive, we are here, we are well. And the people who are well with me are Mr. Lee Grant.
Good afternoon.
You are looking well, actually, Lee.
Thank you, Tim.
So you can actually watch this, by the way. You can watch us live on YouTube every single Thursday, 1 p.m. UK time, and see just how lively, how red and beautifully healthy in the face Lee looks right now. Anyway, enough of Lee. Also,
Maybe we'll be hearing from him a bit later. Who knows?
yeah.
Going now.
That's it. Darian Graham-Smith.
Hello there.
And Mr. Nick Gorlison.
Hello.
And you look healthy as well, both of you. You
Good.
Look great. So, shall we move on quickly from this and talk about the health or otherwise of Windows, Lee?
Yes, this is Microsoft Windows 2030 Vision, which is a possible glimpse into what may happen to Windows in the next 5 years. This first announcement is a Microsoft interview with David Weston, who is their Corporate Vice President of Enterprise and OS Security. Then he goes on to say he's better known as Dwizzle, but by whom is not made clear. Anyway, Dwizzle begins with basically an oversight of what he feels is going to be this vision, which is the world of sort of mousing around and keyboarding around and typing will feel as alien as it does to Gen Z to use DOS. And that's really about the nearest we get to knowing what the next version of Windows could be. But it's a strong opener and possibly a surprise to Microsoft's peripheral division, but that's why we're here, I suppose. He basically believes that we'll do less with our eyes and more talking to computers, and he has this sort of vision of a multimodal device, one which can see what we see, hear what we hear, and then we'll be able to ask it to do more sophisticated things. Now, obviously, with this guy's job title, security is wheelhouse, so there's a lot of talk about security. And what he is suggesting is that within 5 years, corporates will be able to hire a security expert that's actually an AI, and businesses will then communicate with it like we humans do today. And he points out that's via Teams, because that's clearly how only Microsoft talks to people, not via meeting them. But the idea is that AI will become basically a part of the team and will be given tasks and responsibilities, the toil work, as Dwizzle so eloquently phrases it, and allow humans to focus on what they're good at. These agents will be amplifiers, enabling us to do things that we can only dream of. I mean, seriously, I'm reaching for the tissues at this point because it really is getting quite emotional. Customers will migrate and prefer, and remember, you will like this, appliance-level security. Now, this seems to be a bit of a phrase for him, appliance-level security. And it's quite a basic concept because he starts talking about dishwashers, and then because they do one function and they're not extensible, not general purpose, they just work. And that's his Windows 2030 vision for security, that it just works, which, if you think about it, is the phrase which has underlined Microsoft technologies for a long time. But you just have to change the intonation to "it just works." Anyway, he then explains that for many smaller businesses, staffing a security team doesn't really happen, so they will adopt a team of security AI agents to sort all that, and you can sort of see there's sort of mileage potentially in that, and certainly a cost. But to wrap up this section, he talks about the threat of quantum and advocates turning on the quantum-resistant technologies that are in Windows 11 today, basically to avoid potential problems in the future, but he doesn't sort of give any details past that statement. What he does talk about is the Windows Resilience Initiative, which Dwizzle describes as Microsoft's effort to make Windows and all variants of the operating systems more resilient in the event of a failure, or basically make sure CrowdStrike doesn't happen again. So it's better late than never. They're talking. These literally one lines about, we will make it so people don't have to get in their cars and go and restore systems. But there's no detail at all about how this miracle is going to happen. And we've talked about it before because it's going to take, on a Windows platform, certainly buy-in from third-party manufacturers for Microsoft to pull this off. And that he goes on to talk about memory safety, explaining that 70 to 75% of the vulnerabilities that they're patching at the moment are to do with computer memory, buffer overruns, computational errors, etc. So he he talks about the concept of memory safety, and we don't know if this is a hardware thing, a software thing, or even a product name. Dwizzle says that 70 to 75%, again, of attacks no longer apply with memory safety. Note, not happen. He then imagines a paradise for IT admins who will save so much time by not having to patch things, indeed the same 70 to 75% fewer things to patch, and wonders what they could do by harvesting that. And it's at this point that I realise that there is a game of BS bingo gone in Dwizzle's department to see how many buzz phrases he can squeeze into 7 minutes and 7 minutes of video, irrespective of relevance or context. He talks about the strategy for 2030, looking forward, what Microsoft are going to do. And he opens it by saying, I would say, look at your risks today that you don't have solutions for and carry those for 5 years because you have 5 years to make progress on those. And if anyone can understand what that is, I've had 3 goes at it and I can't. So that's good stuff. But he then started talking about maximum protection technology. And I must admit, I did zone out at this point because that sounds like something that's stamped on the side of a box of Durex. So essentially, this is all about letting AI agents...
Family podcast, Lee. Family podcast.
Durex isn't a rude word. It's fine. Essentially, it's all about letting AI agents ensure that security basics of an organisation are met, which really could be very useful. And I suppose AI eyes may be better than no eyes, but I'll leave that to John, Roshan and Olivia to have a pillow fight about legals and liability. But finally, and we are getting here, basically, how will technology make our lives better? And basically, his vision is that he didn't get into technology to sit in meetings and he wishes he had more free time. So that's really it. You'll find this video on the Microsoft website, but I warn you, it's 7 minutes and 19 of your life you won't get back. And apparently this is only the first one. There is more to come for Windows Vision 2030, so we may get some more ideas of visions for Windows 12 or Copilot Plus, but don't hold your breath if you're expecting the next version of Windows to be anything less than AI Fragua. At the end of July, Satya Nadella sent out a company-wide letter making it clear that Microsoft's 3 business priorities are security, quality, and AI transformation. And that's exactly what this video is all about. AI is their North Star, but I'm afraid I've got nothing more to report about what the hell is going to go on with Windows.
Well, I think you've covered quite a lot of ground there, Lee, so I fear we won't be able to unpack it all properly. Can I just start right at the beginning for people's views on this kind of ongoing thing about getting rid of our keyboards and our mice? It's been talked about forever, but Darian, I'll turn to you. It's never happened. Why?
Well, I think, to be honest, a lot of that is a failure of imagination and of implementation on the part of the industry. I mean, I nowadays would say when I'm tapping text on my phone, when I'm sending WhatsApp messages or replying to arguments on threads, I'd say less than half the time I'm actually using that fiddly little annoying keyboard. Most of the time I'm using voice dictation. It's a lot more convenient. It's accurate enough that the small number of corrections that I need to make, it's well worth it. And I said quite a while ago when Microsoft first started talking about plumbing Copilot into Windows, I was very optimistic that this would be the dawn of the age where every laptop's got a microphone already built in. You should be able to hit the Copilot button and say open Excel and bring back that spreadsheet I was looking at yesterday. There is no reason on God's earth why they can't do that now, but instead it seems their focus has been tinkering with Notepad and Paint to build in generative features. There is some useful stuff in Office if you pay for it, but in general I feel that the promise of the AI PC has been completely blown past, and it is actually it is potentially a genuine useful step forward. I mean, if you've ever tried to tell someone how you achieve a certain thing in Windows or a different operating system in Linux, heaven forfend, there's a lot of friction there, which maybe those of us who are a bit more accustomed to computers don't really realize how many abstracted steps we're having to take in order to get to a concrete outcome. So I think we should be relying less and less on our keyboards and mice. And I'm a bit disappointed that we're talking 5 years in the future with this kind of vision. But if that's the direction if someone's at least talking about it, that part of it sounds good to me.
Okay, Nick, I saw you scribbling. Do you agree or disagree?
I disagree to a degree. In that Windows doesn't have there is no Windows Phone. Is that there was a Windows Phone. There's now no longer a Windows Phone. And I think what Darian talks about is very true in that I hate using the keyboard on either of my phones, and I would much rather talk to my phone. But when I'm sitting at my desktop, I can and sometimes do talk to a computer, and it does accurately transcribe what I'm doing, but I feel the quality of what I produce is actually lower than when I'm thinking into a keyboard. I think the enforced pausing and downtime of typing what you're saying, what you're thinking, what you want to express, actually makes for a better product in the long run.
Hang on. You are basically writing off every single podcast. Because what are we doing apart from just extemporizing randomly on subjects we know barely anything about?
Yeah, I agree, but no. I think if you took, say, the transcript of this podcast, for example, I reckon you could remove 25 to 33% of it, and you'd have a much snappier, far sharper.
Lee.
You'd still get the facts, but it would be far more entertaining from a reader's perspective, because you're not having to go through the stuff that's not necessarily relevant. And I think, you're putting out about 140 words a minute when you speak, and that's bearable when you're listening to it, but when you're having to read all of that stuff back, obviously it's not great. So I think when you are, we all write for a living, when you're writing with voice rather than writing with characters or whatever you're going to call it, I think you end up with flabby substandard stuff that needs an awful lot more editing. So I would far rather keep my keyboard and mouse when I'm using Windows, and I would rather use the spoken interaction when I'm using my phone.
So, sorry, Darren, I will come to you, but actually I'm going to use you as an example, because I think you are, for all the people on the podcast, the best at being extremely lucid when you talk. There are very few ahs and ums. So I wonder if that is why you actually lean towards this, whilst the likes of Nick and Lee and myself actually stick to the keyboard. Lee? Darian? No? Hello?
What was that addressed to us? I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, my apologies.
You were talking to Nick.
That was to you. I said no. I said I singled you out there for praise, Darren.
See, this would have been cut out of the transcript.
You can't print blank pages in a book, can you?
No, my point is, Darren, whether, because why I used you as an example is because you are so lucid. That's why. So that's what I'm saying. Do you think that is why you lean towards using your voice?
I'm sorry. There was some ambiguity in what you said, which is the sort of thing that would never be, never occur in written communications. It's very kind of you to say I'm lucid. I'm actually not. I wouldn't say I am. What I do is, rather than going pardon me, I will just dive down an avenue of discussion and pursue it all the way until I run out of ideas. And I think that does work in an interactive medium like this in a way that you really couldn't get away with in print. But I do want to kind of jump back and say part of there's a bit of confusion here and a bit of a mixture of ideas, and that's my fault because I jumped in talking about voice typing, which is different to controlling a computer, which is what I think the Microsoft announcement is hopefully pointing us a bit more towards. I'm not suggesting that I would use my voice to actually edit the spreadsheet once Windows has opened it for me. I'm just hoping that all the toil, I think was the phrase that Dwizzle used, the stuff where there is no human kind of satisfaction or reward, there's no creativity involved in just mastering the operating system and getting it to do what you want. That's the stuff we want to push off onto AIs. So yeah, as I say, I may have muddied the water a little bit at first, but all I mean is the speech recognition is good enough, the comprehension is there. I've been working with ChatGPT quite a lot this month, and I'm stunned by how good it is at picking up even kind of mild inferences of what what I might be thinking. So this technology is all there, just waiting to be exploited.
Yeah, I get you. So there were many other things you mentioned in the Windows 2030 vision, Lee. Is there one other thing or a couple of things that particularly grabbed your attention?
No, I'm sorry, Tim. There's really not. I know, obviously, I meant to mention a few things for us to knock around here, but there was literally nothing here. It's going to be more secure, and it's going to have AI in it, which no one was going to take a bet on. There was no meat on the bones. It was really just it was a vision, but there was no substance behind it. As I said, it is the first one that's coming out, so I'm expecting the different departments are going to have their go. So maybe as we get a bit further down the line, we might get some more information, because obviously 2030, it sounds like one of those futuristic dates, But look at the calendar; it's not far away. And I haven't, to the top of my head, I haven't got the Windows 11 end of life date, but I'm guessing we're in that sort of area.
Windows 10 is only just coming to the end of life now. So there was how many years gap between 10 and 11? 5 years? I can't remember. But anyway,
it was a lot. It was quite a while. I think it was more like 6 or 7, but it was not as many as people were expecting.
yeah. Nick, what about you? Were you taken by any of that video or Lee's summary of that video?
No.
No need for an editing on that one. Go on, Nick. Give me some reaction here.
I don't understand why. I know why they have to talk about this. I don't mean Microsoft in general. I mean people who are developing things. Let's wait till it's out. We all know it's going to be more secure. Or we all hope it's going to be more secure, and we all hope that these things are going to be more intelligent. Because if not, then they'll be going backwards. So whether it's Windows, Mac OS, Linux, Darren's got his hand up again. Anything that he'd like to use. It's logical that it's going to be better than it is today. Let's just wait and see.
Darian.
I just wanted to pick up on something else that Dwizzle mentioned, which was Lee said that we are promised AI, I think particularly in the area of security, but I think this is a more general thing. We're promised things that we can only dream of, and that to me always raises an enormous red flag because it tells me they don't have specifics that they can actually point to. And I do suspect that to some extent this is going to be a bit of a GPU computing all over again, where they spend 10 years trying to find the actual useful application for it. There's a bit of a blaze of publicity and futurism and so on, but for the likes of you and me, it might be a rather longer wait until something actually properly concrete that works is in place.
Lee, final word.
The other message that is in throughout what Dwizzle was saying was basically use AI and you will have more free time, which we know how that ends up. It's use AI does your job, you get fired. So I think you have to be very cautious about sort of what they're promising here, because it's basically the way he was selling it is the 70 to 75% of vulnerabilities that he kept mentioning. IT admins, once they put AI in, can put their feet up, and that's not going to happen.
Okay, all right. Well, it will never happen. Although things have improved, but anyway, it's a very slow. Things have improved, Lee. There are, but no. You don't think that some aspects of our security life has got better? Some burden has been eased over the course of the years?
I don't know. I still talk to a lot of people that lose a lot of money, and there are certain things that I don't know if things have improved or there's just more of it and it's less worse. I'm going to stop that sentence right now because it's gone badly wrong.
Okay, all right. Let's move on to the second item on the agenda, which is all about our friends at Intel.
Yes, dear old Intel. So they've been having a bit of a turbulent time, as anybody who has been glancing at the tech press or listening to this podcast will know. Their upcoming 18A process, 18 angstroms, 1.8 nanometers, that was slated to be the technology that would underpin this year's brand new super whizzy company rescuing Panther Lake chips. But unfortunately, it seems like it might not be going as well as new CEO Lip Bhutan would hope. Not one but two anonymous whistleblowers have been talking to Reuters and have revealed that although Intel won't say any of this publicly, the yield on the new chips is terrible, and they're really struggling to get them up to a sort of volume where they can possibly sell them for a commercially viable price. It looks like it may be that well under 50% of the chips they're making right now may be defective, and so the ones that they are able to make, they will have to charge an uncompetitive price or make a loss on them in order to equip the next generation of laptops with their new 18A technology. And this is bad news not just on its face, but also because 18A was supposed to be the showcase for the new Intel Foundry business, which was supposed to encourage the industry to use Intel to make its own chips. So not very good news. I mean, to be clear, this is all anonymous rumors and leaks, and everything I've just said should be considered false. Please don't sue me. But that's what Reuters are reporting, that two insiders who daren't name themselves because they're kind of speaking out of turn are are claiming. On the
Sorry,
back,
but I will just say it is worth saying though, and you're absolutely right to heavily caveat the fact that this is no named sources. It could be, end up being junk, but it is Reuters. But this isn't some sort of rumors website publishing this. This is a one of the biggest news services in the world that has decided there is something to be said in this story to publish.
that is true, and also it emphasises that it's not one but two sources which are saying this. So it's not like it's not a single disgruntled employee, although it could be a pair of them. Who knows? It has been pointed out by David Zinsner, the Intel CFO, that every chip breakthrough starts with a ramp up of yield. This in particular, this was a very big jump for Intel because they didn't bother making the 2 nanometer one they were originally planning to. So they were always trying to ambitiously, quickly jump ahead to get back onto parity with TSMC. So maybe they will be able to quickly ramp up the quality once they've got mass production going, and it will be a not exactly rags to riches story, but it will be as good as is hoped by Mr. Bhutan and the shareholders. However, in the meantime, the US credit agency Fitch has downgraded Intel. It's now on BBB, whereas previously, last month it was BBB plus. I should have checked. I don't know if it was ever AAA, but it was certainly not what you would have ever considered a junk stock, not for a very long time. And not only has it slipped, it's been given a negative outlook. So Intel really has something to prove right now.
Yes, I don't know where to go on this one because, let me just give you an example. We have just finished the workstation, our annual workstation labs, written by James Norris. And out of the 11 workstations that were submitted for that group test, 10 of them included AMD chips. Some of them were Threadrippers, some of them were just plain Ryzens. But no one chose to go for a Core i9 14X, whatever it is at the top end, and only one company actually went with a Xeon. And that's an absolute reverse from 5 years ago when it was all Intel and we had 1 or 2 AMD outliers. So this does show you where the current power is, the power dynamic is in terms of the actual cores, because these are all high-end desktops, don't forget. So this tells you where the power in the particular cores for high-end desktop chips is at the moment.
Well, that is true. I think AMD have really been focusing on parallelism and not worrying so much about power efficiency or indeed single core performance, I think classically. So if you're doing a workstations test, you're kind of really playing to their strengths. And I think it would be interesting. I think if you did a thin and light laptops test, you'd probably get almost exclusively Intel. So they're not as dead in the water as that one data point would suggest.
No, you are absolutely right. And it's well worth saying that the second generation of the Core Ultra chips that they come out with, especially the ones based on Lunar Lake architecture, are actually excellent. Go on,
but those are the ones that were manufactured by TSMC.
Yeah, well, okay, good detailed knowledge.
But Intel did design them, to be fair. I mean, it is Intel's core. It's just like the problem they're having now is not with the design. I mean, we talked before about Panther Lake. It's got some nice new silicon features, which I can't remember off the top of my head. It's also got a new power system, which I think I remember Lee smirking at the backside power delivery. There we go. Which is actually a very clever innovation, which should decrease the interference and increase the reliability, enable them to get clock frequencies higher and all that good stuff. It's just the execution. It's just the foundry side of things which is stumbling at the moment.
Nick, any thoughts on this one?
No, I mean, as you know, I'm a big fan of second-hand hardware. So my processors are not the latest processors, and they do me just fine. I never am going to have a need of a workstation. And a lot of what we do day to day on the desktop is moving off into the cloud anyway. So from my point of view, all this talk of speed is fairly irrelevant. But I do think it's disappointing that, I mean, obviously speed is part of it that's delivered by the size of the process. But I think it's a shame that we're focusing purely on things like the size of the process, which obviously does have power benefits as well, when obviously there are other things that go on in these chips that are very intelligent. And that all seems to be lost when we're fixating on one element.
I think it's simply because Intel fell so far behind, and it needs to prove to the market, to its shareholders, and to prospective buyers that it's actually caught up in that region. But you're right. There is so much clever stuff goes on that I don't even understand, but Darian understands far better than I do. But you're absolutely right about that. Lee, your thoughts?
A couple of things. What you were saying about the prevalence of AMD in your workstation test. I obviously don't build workstations, it's certainly not my level, but I build a lot of PCs, and I'm building a lot of PCs at the moment for people moving on from Windows 10 to Windows 11, and there is a definite cooling as far as Intel goes. People want AMD, mainly because, and for your day-to-day machines, there is a perception out there that the AMD chip with the Radeon graphics is a better bet than the Intel one. But there's also, for people that are looking for a bit more poke, people are worried about that Intel 14th generation glitch that we were talking about back end of last year that was causing sorts of crashes. So a lot of people that want in gaming machines are just steering clear of Intel just for peace of mind. So there's that on a very sort of basic consumer level. But just going back to this story, because it is about obviously their credit rating having a bit of a blip, and I sort of go back to what I said in March when Lip Bitan was given Gelsinger's job, that I think they've made the wrong choice. They've made a safe choice, and I would argue they need something a bit more radical here, because Tan's job isn't to keep the hand on the tiller while Intel continues into profit-soaked sunset. The company's in trouble. And this is about the third financial warning story we've done about them in a few years. And on paper, they're viable, but this downgrading shows that they're burning through reserves. And that's despite laying off, 23,000 employees since 2022. And doing a bit of digging this morning, apparently a lot of the 2024 layoffs came from their Folsom campus, which is known for their R&D operations. And I've seen another analysis from an investigator in India was saying that Intel generated over $700,000 per employee, revenue per employee in 2020. By 2023, that's down to 440,000. So, that's raised a lot of concerns about whether its cost-cutting measures are actually doing anything at all. So, processors and chips and product, aside, they've got financial problems.
Yeah, you make a good point. I'm actually going out to see Intel's Arizona fab at the end of September. So it'll be very interesting to see what the mood is there. I was thinking about kind of escaping from the main convoy of journalists and just speaking to employees on the condition of anonymity to see what the mood is, because I do wonder.
Do you think they'll spill the beans if you buy them I don't know, what do they drink in Arizona? Well, maybe. I mean, maybe it's one of those things where it's an open secret on the campus, but just not what the execs are saying. I just wanted to chime in to say, I did look it up. Intel have never been AAA with Fitch, but they were A+, straight from the start of 2012, which is as far back as the record goes, until 2022, and they've been just gradually sliding ever since. So not great.
Okay, all right. Let us move on to you, Nick, because Amazon wants to get a bit down and dirty with our conversations.
But does it? I was a bit horrified with this story when because when I read this story first, which is about the potential of Amazon putting ads into Alexa Plus output, I thought, well, that's not on. I don't want that. I haven't got Alexa Plus yet because it's not out in the UK. For anyone who hasn't read what it is, it's a smarter Alexa. It's got a lot more AI in it than the Alexa that we're using in the UK at the moment, and it will come at a premium. So in the US it costs about $20 a month, unless you've got Amazon Prime, in which case it's rolled in, and as Amazon Prime is cheaper per month than just an Alexa Plus subscription, that sounds like a pretty good deal. Now, there was an earnings call from Amazon this week, as there are every so often, every few months when you're a publicly listed company, in which an analyst asked basically a very simple question, which was that there's a lot of far-ranging potential in Alexa Plus for increasing sales through services revenue and advertising. So that was actually brought up by an analyst. Now, obviously, in an earnings call, you don't want to try and brush too many things under the carpet because people then start asking why you're not answering the questions. And Andy Jassy, who's the CEO of Amazon, his response was, I think over time there will be opportunities. As people are engaging more multi-turn conversations, to have advertising play a role to help people find discovery and also as a lever to drive revenue. And I think over time, could also imagine, as we keep adding functionality, that there could be some sort of subscription element beyond what there is today. Now, that doesn't entirely sound to me like ads in Alexa Plus are a definite. It's got to be something that any company would think about, particularly when advertising makes up 22% of Amazon's revenue. That's up year over year, 22% rather, to $15.7 billion this year. So I think it would actually be very surprising if there wasn't a positive response to the analyst's question there. But it does remain to be seen whether someone like Amazon would roll this out in a premium product like Alexa Plus, because at the end of the day, you risk alienating the people who are using it and them turning off because they have invited this device into their home at the end of the day. They don't really want it to be selling stuff all the time, would be my perception. And B, is it going to be effective? I mean, Google seems to think it is. Google has had ads in its AI overviews. And if you read how they work, it gave an example. You just spent the day in the park and now your jeans are covered in grass. You turn to Google and ask, how do I get the grass stains out of my jeans? And AI Overviews provides a number of helpful solutions ranging from using common household products to commercial products like stain removers. And instead of needing to do another search to find the right product, relevant shopping ads appear right next to the AI Overview. So this is beside, not necessarily within the AI Overview. AI at the moment for some people is still a very unproven technology. A lot of people don't trust it. I think if we're going to trust it, we need to believe that what it's telling us is unbiased and accurate. So for example, if there is a great way of getting stains out of your jeans, I want to know how that is, whether or not it involves a product that could end up earning something for the person who's telling me that information.
But that's not going to happen, is it? I mean by that advertising will happen. whatever other certainties we know in the world, it's that advertising will find a way to creep into our lives. So with your example there of the AI assistant, Nick,
yeah,
absolutely. You're going to see Purcell pop up next to that AI overview response, and it's almost amazing now that you've given that example that it hasn't happened already, because it seems like such a logical way to get money.
Do you mean specifically with AI overviews or with speaker products?
Well, no. So there I am talking about the next to the written word. But Darren wishes to chime in.
Yeah, well, that's it. Your mention of the written word, I think, cuts to the heart of this very specific issue that Alexa, unlike all the other AIs that we interact with, is very much an audio-first medium. I have one Alexa device in my home which has a screen. It's just a little Echo Show, which you can barely make out much other than the clock on. Everything else, I talk to it and it talks back. And that is a very different experience if you're going to start putting adverts in to just having something pop up at the side. I find it very hard to visualize how they would do that without it being so intrusive. It would really, really turn customers off. So I think if they want to do that, they need first of all to kind of climb the mountain of kind of much more embracing Alexa devices with screens, which there are gradually, I think, more and more of them. But that's a long-term evolution. It cannot possibly be that, in 2 months' time, they'll say, congratulations, you're a Prime member, you've been upgraded to Alexa Plus, and every answer that we give you is now going to have a 5-second jingle for Tropicana or whatever afterwards.
So two things that spring to mind. One is that we said Alexa so much that people's devices are probably going off like nothing right now, and which is why I changed my wake word to something else, which I won't say for obvious reasons. And the other is that actually a very wise man who appears on the podcast Discord chat as Peter D suggested this AI sponsored by Ariel as a way that it could come up as in terms of those answers, but that could also work in the spoken word. So if you were Ariel, if Ariel could strike a deal with Amazon worldwide that any AI response around cleaning was sponsored by Ariel, then I can see that happening, and it's not too irritating. It's just
cusp. Irritating enough.
Exactly, it's just irritating enough, and it will just appear at the end. to make you bear with it. Lee completely disagrees. I can tell
Absolutely.
that.
Have you watched American Motorsport, Tim? I know you like British Motorsport, but American Motorsport, where lap 17 is waffle lap, and you can't hear a damn thing that's going on because the commentators are talking about the drippiest waffles in Texas or whatever, where the hell they are at that time, and it goes on. And lap 38, we're now sponsored by blah blah blah, and it's just garbage. It's absolute garbage. But just putting that to one side, because we've spoken a few times how Amazon struggles to make money from Alexa, despite selling gazillions of them in various forms. But it seems what I derived from this story was they've potentially now slowly sort of finding another way basically to get adverts under the noses of users. But listening to what Jassy was saying, one of the things he mentioned was people do a lot of shopping with Alexa Plus, and that really sort of got me, because there are various reports written in the last year that estimate that Amazon Echo users purchase through Alexa, and the number being about 2%. So whether Alexa Plus is just so much better at actually being able to shop, or Jesse is frankly making it up for investors, it remains to be seen. But the two things didn't really go together, because we sort of discussed long and hard before why people don't buy with Alexa.
I wonder if it's just that if only 2% of Alexa Plus users buy things from Amazon, there are still so many of them that you can say it's worth $10 billion in revenue. Because the numbers we're dealing with here are so insane. I find it impossible to really understand a company like Amazon, which frankly never needs to make money from Alexa because it makes so much from all its other ventures.
How many of these ad-supported services that we use are actually really ad supported, do you think? Are the ads actually there to irritate us and make us go on to the subscription service? So for example, I still have free Spotify, and it does sometimes annoy me that I listen to the ads, but that's my choice, and I have free YouTube, and it annoys me that I see the ads on there, and I could pay to upgrade both of them, but because I'm clearly being too stingy, I'm going to have to sit through the ads. And one thing that also was in that initial quote from Andy Jassy was, he said, I think over time we could also imagine there being functionality where there could be some sort of subscription element beyond what there is today. And that does make me wonder whether ads within AI output might be a way of selling a higher tier subscription. Purely speculation. I'm not sure, they were even expecting this question to come up, but that's speculation on my part.
But there's many platforms that are bait and switching on that as well, aren't they? The deal used to be I pay, I get no ads. But how many platforms have we seen recently where that's turned around? And it makes me skeptical about sort of handing over cash for any no ad guarantee, because I will pay to avoid ads. And if I get ads, you're not getting a penny.
Yeah, but you're only paying for a month, aren't you? You can, if you, for example, I get ads in Netflix because I'm on the entry level tier, but I could either upgrade immediately or just stop using Netflix. At the end of the day, I'm only committed to a month, aren't I? I don't mind handing over money for that with a few ads in it, because I'm not buying a lifetime subscription that then suddenly changes.
You're obviously much more of a passive viewer than I am. I don't sit there raging every time someone tries to flog me a holiday.
Go and have a wee at that point.
Always good advice. Just briefly, ITVX, I have actually, you talk about the bait and switch, but ITVX's ad insertion is so irritating that I have paid the £6.99 to pay for that, even though I barely watch ITV. It just wound me up so much. But anyway, and Nick, it's not you're stingy, you're sensible, because these things add up so much. So the cost of that, if you had that Netflix subscription and you had the Google subscription, let's say that it adds up to £20 per month for a personal version. That's 240 quid per year, and it's not just 240 quid per year. If you roll it out, that's 2,880 or something over the course of a decade. That money that could be sitting in your pocket.
That's £25,000 over a lifetime.
Well, it depends how long we live for, but yes, these things. It's amazing how much that drip does add up. All right, let us move on to the next ill-prepared section by me. Can I just check, Nick? Where were you? You come from a channel island of some description, don't you? Which
yeah, I come from the one you're about to talk about.
Okay, well, in that case, I feel bad for stealing this story from you.
Don't.
Okay, I didn't feel too bad. Anyway, Guernsey's top politician. Would you have known who Guernsey's top politician was, Nick?
If you'd asked me a couple of years ago, I would have done, because they hadn't changed. Well, I mean, there's as with all parts of the world, there are political names that go round and round in circles. But I think there was recently a change, and I then obviously read your notes and saw there was.
Okay. Well, I can tell you the Chief Minister is currently Deputy Lindsay de Salesmores.
Desilmere. It's Desilmere, Tim.
Desilmere.
Your Guernsey accent is amazing.
Is there an accent in Guernsey, Nick?
I think that's classified as treason.
Anyway, I call him Lindsay because we're good mates. We in the end we
Her. She's a her.
with an A.
Yes, it's a lady.
Okay. Sorry, I got my Lindsay's mixed up. I apologise. Okay. All right. Anyway, those who are
Meticulous research, was it?
But do you know what? On the story, of course, it doesn't actually have a picture of her. It's just a picture of her hand touching a laptop. I must admit.
Did she not?
Did it have painted fingernails?
No, it didn't. If that would have been an absolute giveaway. Anyway, moving rapidly on. The point being that these deepfakes have impersonated her, and the warning has come through that these are deepfakes, and that although she appears to be recommending an investment scheme, they are in fact fake. So watch out there for all Guernseans. Guerns, really? Are you just making it up now to kind of trip me up? Is that what they're called? Guerns?
I always been told that was.
Wikipedia says Guernsey man, Guernsey woman, Jearnesia or Sarnian.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, well, Nick actually wrote a novel called The Sarnian, I happen to know. It's possibly a series.
So
Yes,
my
we'll never
Instagram
know.
name.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay, anyway, so that's the story number one, which I did say that I hadn't researched these very well. So, I'm living up to my absolute standard. The second is this is all, by the way, leading up to a proper discussion on the third one. The second story is of Mark Sewards, who has embraced AI to such an extent that he has created a lovely avatar of himself, where he looks like a Disney cartoon, basically. And so the idea is that you can chat with this avatar of a smiling, slick, Disneyized Mark Sewards, and he will respond to your questions. I don't actually think this is a terrible idea. He's come under some criticisms for this, but any way that opens up making it more likely that you chat to your local politician, or indeed know who the heck your local politician is surely a good thing.
Well, it really depends on what he does with the data. I mean, if my local MP had an avatar where I could go and say, are you responsible for the potholes on Mill Road, or is that the council? And he could say, actually, I do have some say. And I said to the AI, well, then could you please make a note that they're really causing trouble around here? And then at the end of the day, the MP's assistant or whatever could just do a roundup of all the issues that people have raised and all the requests. That would save him an enormous amount of time. I would have got the information I needed without having to bother a person. It could be a win.
Yeah, it could be gamed as well, obviously.
Well, that's true, yes.
Like all these things. But yes, anyway, so that is the second item. And then the third one is the Swedish Prime Minister, who I happen to know is a man. Mainly because the Guardian has kindly actually included a photo of him. What's his name? I'm going to go for his name because it looks quite simple. Ulf Kristersson. Yeah, are we going to agree that I may have got that correct?
Yeah, looks good. Do you want to go for his middle name as well?
What? Go on, Darren. What's his middle name?
Denise.
It's written Hjalmar, but I'm a bit suspicious. I think HJ in Swedish might have a funny sound. I'll look it up. I'll get back.
It does when we say it, anyway.
Okay, but anyway, the point of this particular story is that he's been heavily criticised for using AI tools to kind of second guess his work. So he says he was quizzed by a newspaper, a reporter, and he said in response about AI, I use it myself quite often, if nothing else than for a second opinion. What have others done? Should we think the complete opposite? Those types of questions. And again, to me, this seems like a really good use of AI to actually challenge yourself, to challenge biases. So I think the criticisms are misplaced on this occasion. I actually think overall we should be absolutely encouraging politicians to be using AI, because if they don't, then it's one of those things. It's like, oh, I'm no good at maths or whatever. That would be typically a Chancellor of the Exchequer, and then you just lose confidence in these people. We live in a very AI literate age. We need AI literate politicians. So actually, well, I think that generally the slightly mocking tone towards these politicians is wrong. So go on. No, I'm not going to go to you, Darian, because I'm going to go to Lee because he agreed with me.
Yes, I agreed with everything. The last story, I must admit, I've just put in the Discord chat. It reminded me very much of an old Mitchell and Webb sketch called Lunatic in a Box, where the government of Finland replaces their legislative system, which I can't say, with the lunatic in a box, and it's well worth a listen. So enjoy that. But I agree with the MP, Mark Seward, because having contacted my local MP, who is very responsive around here, I'm not a million miles away from where Mark is. My MP is very good, but I know a lot of MPs are restricting their surgeries, and particularly understandably in this area, given the tragic murder of Joe Cox in 2016, which is only a stone's throw from Mark's. That there is a sort of a concern about the security implications of doing so many surgeries and things like that. So some MPs are sort of shutting them down, not doing so frequently. So anything, as already been said, anything that just opens the door for another way to access someone, that could be a really brilliant thing. I did like the notice on the top of his page that says not everything it says should be taken as fact, which should be mandatory on all MPs' digital platforms. But as for the Guernsey scam, just I can understand why people sort of get hooked into these things, from the authorities, because there are things like social finance initiatives going on and stuff like that. But it's just it's just a scam under a different name, isn't it, with a different hat on.
Indeed, Darian.
Well, I was going to say, I think AI has a terrible reputation. I don't think that's very controversial to say. And we're also very kind of hyper aware that you can't rely on it, and also that it's maybe bad for the environment. That there's a great deal of distrust of anybody using it. But I was listening to this and I was sort of thinking, I know, as you say, it's perfectly smart and kind of admirable to be using an AI just to challenge your own assumptions, your own conclusions. And I was remembering that Ronald Reagan used to consult an astrologer, and I swear he got less stick for it than this guy is for using ChatGPT.
Wasn't that Nancy Reagan who consulted the astrologer?
Well, I mean, okay, he took advice from Nancy Reagan that was originally sourced from. Nancy Reagan was a kind of conduit, if I've spelt that correctly.
Well, you can get away with anything on the radio. I'm remembering Glenn Hoddle's divine intervention as well. I can't remember which World Cup that was. Nick, you have a multiple choice here. You can either keep on with this story, or you can kick off the nibs. Your choice.
Should we do a nib, as it's 13 minutes to 2? The first one I think is probably mine, which is Apple retiring the classic hard disk icon. It's been in macOS or OS 10 before then, since the turn of the millennium. And it's a great looking icon. It's really detailed. It's got bolts in it. It's even got a safety label on it. And that's going to disappear in favour of, unfortunately, I think, a less interesting external SSD, even though it's going to be sitting inside the drive. It looks like an external SSD in the build that was released on Tuesday of macOS 26, which hopefully will be out in autumn. It's probably timely. Apple hasn't used hard drives in the last 10 years, so having a hard drive icon on the interface was maybe a little bit of an anomaly, and it's something that we're seeing elsewhere. I mean, I use LibreOffice across 4 platforms, and on at least 2 of them, the disk icon, which we routinely click to save, obviously has disappeared, and it's just a downward pointing arrow, which makes an awful lot more sense. It's not as visually pleasing to me, but it does make a lot more sense. And you've got things like still handset icons on phone apps on smartphones, which again, they're becoming more and more irrelevant, and I think for the next generation they're going to be wondering why they're still being used. So there has been a bit of an uproar from those who love this icon, it would appear, but it's just logical. They may roll it back, I don't know. They did split the Finder face, which was Let me just scroll down to the bottom of the stream. See where mine is. It's blue on the left and grey on the right. And in one build, the first developer build, they put the blue on the right and the grey on the left, which caused a bit of uproar. They have switched that back. I think it's probably less likely they'll switch back this icon because it makes a lot of sense.
Do you think Apple is trying to get us used to the idea that the storage is mostly external, and the stuff that comes in your computer is just a small, very expensive cache of stuff for holding your operating system? Because they price it that way.
Well, they've got 4 icons. All 4 are changing. So they're all going to look very similar. There's the internal storage, external storage, network storage, and removable storage. I think the distinction probably between external and removable, it will be lost on some people, but they're all going to have a little bit of a refresh, and they are all on a theme with different colours.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to our next deathly nib with you, Lee.
Microsoft has confirmed that Windows SE will come to an end in October 2026. SE stands for School Edition. Please note that Windows SE is a different beast to Windows S and also to Windows 11 Education. And this was a special edition of the OS aimed at schools, but also as a competitor to Chrome OS. Now, although Windows SE had a reduced feature set to simplify the experience for kids, under the hood, it was basically the same OS as regular Windows, which meant that on the education sector's low-powered hardware, it performed with the effortless agility of a dead frog in a box. So aside from the headaches this will cause schools, many of whom don't have enough budget for pencils, it's another bullet in the foot for Microsoft that has once again failed to deliver a decent OS that runs well on low-powered hardware, unlike their competitors Apple and Google, who have dominated this sector for many years.
Did you just extemporize that? That sounded like we were talking earlier about, when you sit down and write something, it sounds much more polished and authoritative. And I'm not in any way wishing to impugn your off-the-cuff speaking abilities, but that was impressive.
No, that was all written.
Fair enough.
I'll let you into the secret that you can cut out of the podcast is everything I write. My script today is 1,721 words.
Does that include that thing you just said then about your script?
No, that was real. But no. Unfortunately, I am of such a nervous disposition that I can't absolutely wing anything, so I have to write it all down. That's I'm afraid. And this is unfortunate for Tim, who has to edit some of my articles that go on for months.
Well, your hard work is our benefit.
Do you not just bullet point it?
No, it's all out in full.
Wow. Okay.
So there's occasional marks where I have to pause and make sure I hit a beat, but that's when I fluff something and when I and because even though it's written down, I still and So really, I am the worst podcast person in the world. It's absolutely shocking.
Trust me, there are far worse. Mainly me, as we've discovered already in this podcast. Final nib with you, Darian.
Yes, the Epic versus Google court case, which has been rumbling for I don't know how many years, 4 or something. There was originally a jury verdict in 2023 that Google was being a naughty old monopoly, operating its own app store and its own payment system and not letting others compete. Now, possibly one of the last appeals has been exhausted, and the CEO of Epic tweeted total victory in the Epic v Google appeal. It has been confirmed that Google is indeed a monopoly and it must open up its app store and payments to rival stores, so you'll soon be able to download Epic's own gaming store onto your... What are you, Gemini? I've got ChatGPT here. I've got Alexa. I don't know why Gemini's woken up. I don't even know what you'd say to that. Anyway, yes. So if all goes according to Epic's plan, you'll be able to install Epic's own store from Google Play and thenceforth ignore Google's own infrastructure and get all your stuff from Epic. But Google is once again appealing. I don't know to whom or on what grounds. I guess they just have to try. 2026 is the deadline for opening up the platform. So unless anything major changes there, we've got only a couple of months before the whole Android ecosystem is blown wide open.
Okay, thank you. And we're going to continue hearing your dulcet and unprepared tones, Darian, because you have the hot hardware of the week on your wrist.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've spoken a lot this week, but you'll just have to endure a few more minutes of it. Unprepared is right as well, because this is not something that I have been reviewing. It's not something I've been sent to test. It's not something I've attended the press conference about. This is something I bought myself, which is a reason why we're talking about it now rather than back in February when it was actually released. This is my smartwatch, my new Redmi Watch 5. Those who know me will know I've been an absolute devotee of smartwatches since the very, very early days. I had the Galaxy Watch 2, I think. No, before it was even called that. I forget what it was called back in 2013 or 2014. Had a string of them. I was responsible for persuading Tim, I think, to put smartwatches on the front cover of an issue of PC Pro back in 2014. It was the worst selling issue of the year. It actually was. Which just goes to show that I am much more enthusiastic about smartwatches than the average. So I'm someone you should listen to if you are curious about this particular market sector. Anyway, the point being, ever since then, I've always been trying to ride the wave of, the best, newest, most capable, top-rated hardware that you can have on your wrist. I haven't really been on the iPhone side of things because that only works with Apple, and I haven't been on the Apple Watch side of things because that only works with an iPhone, but otherwise I've tried quite a few, as I say, Samsung, Huawei. I had a Google Pixel Watch until recently. The Pixel Watch died after, I think, 2.5 years, which is, in this industry, I guess, kind of a reasonable lifespan. I mean, it's not at all good. I've got a Breitling upstairs that's been going for about 40 years, but that doesn't get notifications, so it's stuck in a drawer. I was looking for a replacement. I found that the Pixel Watch 3, which is probably about to be superseded by the Pixel Watch 4, but anyway, if you buy that now, that's 349 quid, or the brand new Samsung Galaxy Watch 8 that was announced very recently. That's a similar price. And I thought, this is insane, really. This is stupid, because all I really use my watch for is I want something that's going to tell me that I can glance at to find out if that buzz in my pocket, if that was an important Slack message from Tim saying I need those features edited by 12 o'clock, or if it's just a random message from a friend saying, hey, did you know, have you heard this early Duran Duran single or whatever? I mean, I want to know about both of them right away, but then I can schedule when I'm going to pay attention to them. So I had a look around. I thought there must be something which doesn't require me to pay all this money for that. And I settled upon, did I actually tell you what it was yet? This is the Redmi Watch 5. Good. It's Redmi, I believe, is Xiaomi's cheap brand. And rather than paying £349 for the old Pixel Watch, this cost me 75 quid off Amazon. And I'm here to tell you, I kind of feel like an absolute bloody idiot for paying all that money for all those watches over the previous years. This is what you would previously have called a fitness band rather than a full-fat smartwatch, because it doesn't run, it doesn't run Watch OS, it doesn't run Android Wear OS, it doesn't run Samsung's One Watch UE 8, none of that stuff. It runs Xiaomi's own HyperOS watch platform, which is super optimized for the hardware. It's super optimized for battery life, not so super optimized for versatility. So before I get on to the good stuff, I'll tell you that it doesn't have a voice assistant. You can't tap your wrist and just say, make a reminder that I need to pick up some milk on my way home. Well, you can, but nothing will happen. It doesn't run external apps. It doesn't have a store, so you're kind of limited to what's built into it. It doesn't do contactless payment. If you're traveling around on the tube, you can't just bash your watch on the reader as you go. It also doesn't have the world's best heart rate monitoring, and it doesn't have sleep apnea monitoring. So if you really care about that stuff, this will kind of give you an idea of what heart zone you're in, but it's not as reliable as a high-end health accessory. But here's the thing, it does the notifications that I want, it does the weather, it does activity tracking, automatic activity tracking for a whole range of activities. It controls your music playback, so if I'm out for a jog, I can just tap the skip button or the pause button or whatever without having to rummage in my shorts for my phone, which I find very valuable. If I want to take things even further, I can upload music to the watch. It's got about 160 meg of storage, which takes me back to the early days of MP3 players, but that's enough for a 5K, and I'm not attempting anything longer. And it will pair with my Bluetooth headphones. You can even, if it's connected to your phone, you can even do the old spy thing of having the audio come out of the watch and talking into your wrist. So really, it ticks every box that I care about. And I've spent years using premium smartwatches, so I can say with some confidence that although they can do other things, I personally am not using them. And here's the thing, the battery, I feel like Roche now. Here's the thing, the battery on my old Pixel Watch, I was thinking of replacing it before it died anyway, because that had dwindled down to about, I think, 28 hours between charges, which meant obviously in practice, I either had to charge it overnight, meaning I couldn't do sleep tracking, or I had to find odd moments during the day to top it up, which was a bit of a pain. So I was looking for something that would last a bit longer. Xiaomi says that the typical battery life of this is 24 days. Now, I've not had it for that long. I got it on Monday. I charged it up when it arrived. It's now on 83%. I haven't obviously topped it up once. New batteries, sometimes, maybe it takes a little while for the phone to, for the watch, to get a real hang of what the drain's going to be like. Maybe the way you use a watch in the first few days isn't representative of how you're going to long term, but it looks very much like this is going to survive, a 10-day trip to Corfu without me even needing to pack a charger. That is amazing. So I would have happily paid £349 for this one rather than the Pixel Watch 3 if that had been the option. However, as I say, 75 quid, I'm just blown away. So even though it's not new, I have to, I'm just going around telling everyone this watch is proper hot.
Okay, we have a few questions from listeners on Discord. Waterproof, can you swim with it?
You can, yes. I haven't dared try it because I'm so unaccustomed to that, but it's supposed to be. It says 5 atmospheres. I've read some third-party reviews that say they've gone swimming with it out and worn it in the shower, no problem. Haven't tested that myself. Haven't seen an IP rating officially advertised, but it does say waterproof, not splash resistant on the marketing.
Okay, we music only in WAV format, apparently. Is that correct?
I don't know. I haven't tried it. As I say, I'm really a newcomer to this. If that is true, it's surprising. It would make a degree of sense because obviously one way they get the battery life so high is to use the lightest weight CPU possible. And actually on that score, I want to say that you cannot tell at all that the screen, the interface just zips around as if it were, using something very, very advanced. But it could be that they've saved money and saved cycles by not building in an MP3 decoder, in which case it's not going to get you through a 5K, not at the pace I run anyway. But still, I think that's a rather marginal use. By the way, I just mentioned the screen. I forgot to say, this is an AMOLED display, pretty good for 75 quid. But the size of it looks like a Swatch from the 80s. This is like, so I think, the Galaxy Watch 8, just the Samsung one I've recently been looking at, I think that comes in 40 and 44 millimeters. The 44 millimeter is the big one. This one is 50 millimeters. It's bigger than an Apple Watch Ultra. It took a moment of getting used to, but I have to say it's kind of lovely that, I'm not as young as I used to be. Do not have to squint. This is big and bright and eye-catching in a good way.
Easy to see in bright sunshine, asks Rediffusion.
1,500 candela per square meter. That's what Xiaomi says. I haven't tested it myself. We haven't really been blessed with the brightest of sunlight, but I'm going to say yes, I think so, because it's AMOLED, the contrast is exceptional, so it looks very, very clear. And as you might be able to see on YouTube, if I can get it up there, there's like literally hundreds of watch faces to choose from, because I think previous generations of the Redmi Watch have already had like lots developed for those. But the one I'm using has the world's biggest numbers on it, so you could probably read it from the far end of a sprinting, of a racetrack.
And in terms of the built-in apps, Paul Riley asks, does it have an LED light? Which I'm guessing, can you use it as a mini torch at night?
Yes, you can. I'm just there we go. That's all the effort it took to bring it up. You just swipe in from the side, and then you get the quick links, and done.
Okay, all right. If someone is kind enough to sort out the voting, I think we shall start that now. So let's go to Nick. You can ask questions, but you can also say whether you think this is hot or not.
No, it's hot. It's absolutely hot. £75, 24 days battery life, and according to the website, which I'm reading here, a microphone for investigative evidence gathering. I love it.
Well, that was the main attraction, of course.
Well, that is proper Dick Tracy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. The poll's not come up by Matt.
Hang on.
Oh, so Lee's doing it. Okay. All right. I will say, yeah, I think it's quite hot. I'm not getting too totally excited by this, I must admit, Darian. But I will give it the nod for the price. I think it would be quite interesting to try you out with a few of the other cheap smartwatches that are around, because actually there are quite a few to choose from, to be fair. So Honor, for example, does one for about £49, I think, but I've not used it, so I'm committed myself to getting a. I'm waiting for my Pebble to arrive. I was also just waiting then for the vote to arrive from Lee.
Yeah, I made a right. No, I made a right mess of that. I don't know what went on there, but thankfully, running DAC. I'm going to delete that because frankly, that's embarrassing. Running DAC has saved the day.
Oh, well done, running DAC. Thank you. All right. So, hot or not, Lee?
Oh, we're at that stage. My apologies. I haven't been listening. Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Yes.
What's the charging socket on it?
Oh, utterly proprietary. It's like a magnetic thing with two like bobbles on it. And also, one of the this watch is so good that the reviewers have kind of struggled to find negatives. So on the cons, you'll often see that the charging cable is rather short, which is true. I've got mine plugged into a USB extender cable. But since you're only going to plug it in once every 3 weeks, it's not such a huge issue. And in terms of like what connector is it? I mean, I'm perfectly happy leaving this non-standard connector in one place in my house because it's not something where I want to have one in the study and one in my my briefcase, etc.
Yeah,
thank you.
But I'm with Lee. It's so irritating because I've tested. I went through a time where I tested loads of smartwatches, and all of them had different proprietary interfaces, and it is a pain in the bottom.
I do agree, but you've got to remember this is like that's a special case. I mean, for a normal person, if you ever meet near those, they just buy the one and they keep it for 3 years. So it doesn't make such a difference.
10, 15 of these. That's a bit weird. Lee, hot or not?
I think this is hot. I like the cut of its jib. I've been a buyer of Garmin's for many years. I don't give a monkeys about sort of notifications and apps and sort of playing music off it and stuff like that. Basically, I need a couple of things from it. One is just to record my activity on apps like Strava, and also if it to notify me if I'm having a heart attack, and anything else frankly can go hang. And like Darian, I've looked at this this morning and thought, that looks really smart, and it's about a quarter of the price that I paid for the Garmin, which is on my wrist at the moment. So I feel like a bit of a Burke. And when this Garmin finally dies, and they are pretty robust, these Garmin, so I'm not expecting it to die anytime soon. I will certainly look what Redmi, if they are still around at that time, what they have got out at that point, because this is definitely worth a look.
Okay, and just looking at the time, Darian, a nice short hot or not.
Me? Sorry, have I been unclear about my...
Well, I need to get it's the official record. This is like Hansard. We need to get every single element down.
All right, I'm filing into the lobby and I'm saying it's hot.
Okay, all right, thank you. And that's very much the feeling on the floor of the House, with 77% of votes going to hot and a mere 23% saying not. So a very clear victory for you and for Jami. So well done, everyone. And well done to anyone who's got to the end of the podcast. There's no prize. I'm sorry, but we do thank you for listening. And until our next podcast in a week's time, goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
All right. Thanks, everyone. What are you shaking your head for?
That was a mildly chaotic podcast.
No, that was fine. Mm-hmm. That was fine.
What I will be interested to see, I'm going to listen out. Did you notice that Darian restarted one of his sentences towards the end? And I'm going to listen out to the final edit to see whether he's left his fake start in or whether he cuts it out.
I probably won't cut it out because when I'm talking, I'm distracted and not able to make notes. If someone else does it, I might cut it out because then I'm listening and I can very easily record the timestamp.
I'd say you are a very generous editor, and you do cut out a lot of certainly my fluffs that I've noticed. So
No. You make few fluffs, and
turning up is normally the worst one.
All right. Yes. All love you all. Mwah, mwah. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.